All right, let's dive deep into one of the most powerful chapters in the entire Bible, Luke chapter 15. In it, Jesus tells three, pretty simple but incredibly profound stories. You've probably heard of them: a lost sheep, a lost coin, and a lost son. He tells them to answer one single critical accusation. And in doing so, he pulls back the curtain and shows us the very heart of God.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the conflict that kicked this whole thing off, what we're calling a scandalous welcome. Then we'll get into the parables themselves, seeking the one, and that famous story of the father who ran. But we won't stop there. We'll also look at the often overlooked older brother, the son who stayed, before we tie it all together to understand heaven's joyful heart and, most importantly, what it all means for you with your invitation home.
So, why did Jesus even tell these stories in the first place? Well, it all started with a really tense situation, something that, to the religious leaders of the day, was a truly scandalous welcome.
Now, you have to get this. The complaint here is so specific and so important. It wasn't just that Jesus talked to people considered sinners, it was that he ate with them. In that culture, sharing a meal was a huge deal. It was a sign of deep acceptance, of fellowship. So when the religious leaders saw this, they weren't just thinking Jesus was being friendly. They thought he was endorsing their entire way of life, and they were absolutely furious.
And that leads us to the central question of the entire chapter. The Pharisees are asking it with total scorn, but it's the exact question Jesus is about to answer, not with a lecture, but with three of the most powerful stories ever told. Everything that follows is his explanation. So to begin his answer, Jesus doesn't offer some complex theological argument. Nope. Instead, he uses two short, super relatable parables that build on this single powerful theme, the incredible value of finding the one that was lost. Jesus starts with an image that everyone listening would totally understand. I mean, a shepherd's flock is his whole livelihood. But notice what the shepherd does. He doesn't just write off the loss. No, he leaves the 99 and actively, purposefully goes searching. And this is our first huge clue into God's character. He is a God who seeks us out when we're wandering. And what happens when the one is finally found? Pure, unadulterated joy. Jesus says there is more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents, who just turns back, than over 99 people who don't even think they need to. The whole focus is on the immense value and the massive celebration over that single one. And Jesus doesn't stop there. He immediately tells another story to really drive the point home. This time, it's a woman who has lost a valuable silver coin. This was likely part of her dowry, maybe even irreplaceable. And this story just brilliantly illustrates the diligence of the search. She lights a candle, she sweeps the entire house. I mean, she turns everything upside down to find that one thing that is so precious to her.
You see the pattern here, right? Just like with the sheep, the story ends with a party. A huge celebration over the one piece that was found. Jesus is painting this incredibly consistent picture. To God, every single individual is a treasure of immense value, worth a really intensive, diligent search.
Okay, so those first two stories, they were just the warm-up act. They set the stage perfectly for the main event of the chapter. Jesus now tells a longer, more dramatic story. We often call it the prodigal son, but as we're about to see, it's really the story of an absolutely incredible father. The younger son's journey is just this rapid downward spiral. First, he insults his father by demanding his inheritance early, which was basically saying, "Dad, I wish you were dead." Then he goes off and wastes every penny on reckless living until he hits absolute rock bottom. I mean, he's feeding pigs, the most degrading job you can imagine for a Jewish man. And then, the turning point. He came to himself. That right there is the essence of repentance, that moment of clarity where you realize how lost you are and you decide to turn back home.
This verse, this is the heart of the entire chapter. The father wasn't just waiting around, he was watching the horizon. And the moment he sees his son, he doesn't wait for an apology, he runs. Now, you have to understand, an elder in that culture would never, ever run. It was completely undignified. But this is a theological statement. God's love shatters cultural norms. His compassion for his children just completely overwhelms any concern for his own dignity.
Let's just break this down for a second. This welcome is an absolute explosion of action, and it's all driven by love. The father sees him, feels compassion, runs to him, throws his arms around him, and kisses him all before the son can even get his rehearsed apology out. And that is the crucial point. The father's love and compassion started everything. The welcome came way before the confession. And the welcome doesn't stop with a hug. Look at these signs of complete and total restoration. The father doesn't just forgive.
He restores. The best robe? That restores his honor. The ring? That restores his family authority. And the sandals? They're a clear sign that he is a son, not a slave, because slaves always went barefoot. He is welcomed home not as a servant, but as a fully reinstated, beloved son.
But wait, the story has a twist. Just as the party is getting started, we meet the other son, the one who never left. And this is where Jesus reveals that it's totally possible to be lost without ever leaving home.
Just listen to the bitterness in his words. His relationship with his father isn't built on love at all. It's purely transactional. It's a contract. I served you, I obeyed you, so where's my payment? He is so full of self-righteousness and this sense of earned merit that he cannot even begin to comprehend grace. He can't share in his father's joy because to him, his brother's welcome is completely unjust. You see what Jesus is doing, right? He's holding up a mirror to the Pharisees in the crowd.
The contrast here is just so stark. You have one son who was lost in a far country of rebellion and wild living, but the older son, he was just as lost, right there in his father's field, trapped in his own far country of pride, resentment, and a cold, hard heart. Both sons had broken the relationship, just in completely different ways.
So, after these three incredible stories, what's the grand takeaway? What's the big point Jesus is driving home? Well, together, they pull back the curtain to reveal the very nature of God, what we could call the joyful heart of heaven itself.
These stories really show us 5 core truths. First, God is a seeking God, just like that shepherd and that woman. Second, every single individual soul has immense, incredible value. Third, true repentance is simply coming to your senses and turning for home. Fourth, salvation is a totally free gift of grace, like the robe and the ring. It can never be earned. And finally, that older brother is a huge warning. Religious pride can leave you standing on the outside of the party, just as lost as anyone else.
So look, these aren't just some ancient stories. They're not just history. They are a direct and personal invitation from the heart of God straight to you, right here and right now.
And this is the question that the parable really leaves us with. It's a question we all kind of have to ask ourselves. Do you identify more with the younger son, the one who wandered far away and knows they need grace? Or do you sometimes see a little bit of the older son in yourself, dutiful on the outside, but maybe with a heart that's grown a little cold and resentful?
The good news is, the invitation is for both. If you feel far from God, you need to know that He is watching the road for you, ready to run and throw a celebration. And if you've been in the house for a while, it's a call to check your heart, to ask God to replace any joyless duty or resentment with His own compassionate, celebratory love for other people who are finding their way home.
Ultimately, the invitation of Luke 15 is really simple. Come and join the Father's party. It doesn't matter where you've been or how long you've been gone, the door is wide open. Now, to really let this sink in, make sure you solidify your understanding by using the flashcards and taking the quiz to complete this lesson. Thanks so much for joining us.